Dreamers, doers, and rule breakers. People who try new things, take risks, and break the mold. Wins or stumbles, that's how the world shifts. This is How It Shifts.
Welcome to How It Shifts, a space for stories that shift the way we see work, life, and everything in between. And today we will talk about hard leadership in action with wonderful David Henzel, serial entrepreneur and just a really, really amazing person. And I'm really happy, David, that you're here with me today.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Very cool
Awesome.
intro, by the way.
Thank you. I'd love to just introduce yourself a little bit, like tell us a little bit about yourself and the journey of entrepreneurship and all the cool stuff you've been doing.
All right. I've done a lot of stuff. I'm old, so I'll
Oh my gosh.
summarize it fast. I'm originally from Germany. I've always been an entrepreneur. I was pretty lost as a kid. Didn't know what to do with myself. Got kicked out of lots of schools and ended up on, how do you say that? You see, on the wrong track, to keep this politically correct here. And was really lost, didn't know what to do with myself. And then a friend of mine came to me and said, like, hey, man, how about we start a business together? You go with computers and we'll figure this out. And I said, like, okay, cool. I have nothing else going on. And then I found entrepreneurship, which allowed me to do what I wanted to do, not having somebody who told me what to do. And this worked out pretty well. Had a few businesses in Germany, but my dream was always to move to America and be part of the startup culture that I saw that was going on in California. And so in 2009, I sold my business in Germany and moved to Los Angeles and co-founded a CDN there, a content delivery network called MaxCDN, which we sold successfully in 2014. Then moved back to Europe. My wife wanted to go back to Germany, which I couldn't do for weather-related reasons. After being in LA for so long, I just couldn't go back. And then we end up moving to the south of Turkey. We're in Bodrum right now, and very, very happy being here. And currently, I have a portfolio of companies. But my main focus and my main passion is, as you can see here, Love Not Fear, representing it pretty hard. And we can get into all of that, but I'll stop here for a second.
Awesome. And I get that weather-related part pretty well, by the way. So yeah, I see Love Not Fear. It's quite a statement, and it feels like it's coming out of all your experience and what you have done, and now you're actually you founded this company called like this. So may I ask you, what does love mean to you?
I think love means acting from a mindset of abundance, being in a state of flow, living up to your purpose, expanding. And fear on the other side is like contracting, thinking only about me. Love is thinking about others, being of service. Also pushing myself to grow. I guess this is what love is for me.
And what is Love Not Fear as a business about?
Well, I'm still on the fence of is this a business or a movement? My main idea is I want to, first of all, make as many people as possible aware that if you make decisions out of love, your life will be much better. And if you build a company culture where people do their job out of love versus fear, your company will thrive more. And on the other hand, I want to we're giving people tools to empower them to do that, I guess, to keep it simple. And we have a few other offshoots or flavors. One is a recruiting company to help people to hire team members that are not only a skill fit, but also a culture and a team fit and, aligned with the purpose of the company.
Right.
So it's personal and organization development to really make it compact.
Yes. I mean, like, obviously, like, we live now in times where it feels like change is a constant, like the world is kind of like spinning faster every single day. If you would watch the news every day, I think there is a good chance you, I don't know, get depressed or feel like maybe hopeless, right? And so it really feels like you're hitting the nerve of time with your organization. And I would be really interested in how did it get to that point? Because I mean, entrepreneurship, and then you're like going to personal development. Like, how is that connected, and how did you get to this point today?
How did I get here?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Happy to share. By the way, side tangent. I think takeaway number one from this podcast: stop watching the news. Like, it's just like you always put yourself into a victim position if you watch the news, in my opinion, because it tells you lots of bad things that you can't impact. And I chose many years ago to only focus on things I can impact and just ignore things I can't, because otherwise I really put myself into a victim position. And I have not watched news in over 20 years. And it worked. Maybe I read some industry-related blogs, but like general news, no. If something really important happens, you'll hear about this from friends or on social media or whatever. So stay away from news. But served me well, just sharing from experience. In terms of how this happened with personal development and how love and fear came into my life, I have no formal education. I was kicked out of lots of schools. I went to 14 different schools, and I don't know. I never liked certain aspects of school, and so I was always into personal development and learning and growing. So in all my businesses, when the business is growing really fast, you better grow with it, or you get replaced. I was always into learning and doing personal development. But actually, there's two main points on where I can trace it back to. Number one was I was very introverted. I would have never done a podcast interview or public speaking or like even talking to somebody I didn't know, which was, kind of, I mean, somebody at the post office, yes, but like talking to a stranger that stands there, like, no. And this was really holding me back in life and business. And I saw a friend of mine who's one of my best friends now. And back then we sponsored him to wear our t-shirt at a conference while he was only 19 years old, and he gave a keynote speech. And I saw like, Jesus Christ, it's really good for business to being able to stand up there and give a presentation, but I could have never do this with my mindset back then. And then afterwards, I introduced myself to him, and he took me by the arm, introduced me to all the speakers, to the organizers of the conference, and he networked like a crazy man. And I thought, wow, this is actually fun and it's so good for business, and I'd like to do this as well, but how do you do this being an introvert? So I did Toastmasters twice a week. For those of you who don't know what this is it's like public speaking training. And I did this twice a week in LA, and even though it was very painful, I stuck with it. And I mean, painful because of I was scared doing it, not because there's any physical pain involved.
Somebody like
they beat you in submission now. And I went to 2 networking events per week in Los Angeles, and I talked to everybody and their mother. And even though it was like also very painful, you can picture like, okay, next person. Hi, I'm David. And this exposure therapy helped to be more dial down my shyness. But the real switch happened when in a yoga class, my yoga teacher said that every decision in life you either make out of love or out of fear. And this was absolutely mind-blowing to me, because I was always acting out of fear. When I'm on stage thinking, do they think what I'm saying is stupid? Do they think I look weird? Do they think I have a strange accent? Whatever, kind of making it all about me. But if I flip it around and I do it out of love, because what I'm sharing can potentially help some people in their life or in their business, that becomes very easy. Or in terms of sales, I've always been an entrepreneur where, as a startup, you have to sell or you die. And I sold out of fear. And selling was always like very unpleasant. But once I understood that if I do it out of a sense of love/being of service, if I have a product that can help you, I can even be a pushy sales guy. Say, Tine, freaking buy this, going to help you so much. Please do yourself a favor and buy it. And yeah, I could give you tons of more examples, but this, I think, was the main thing when I realized that if I change my mindset, how I operate, to a place of love and abundance mindset versus fear and scarcity mindset, everything is flowing better. And the second inflection point was when I came home after a long meeting about the roles and responsibilities at my business in LA. And I was sitting on the couch, very tired and burned out. And our daughter Emma had a full diaper, and I told my wife, "Hey, honey, look, Emma has a full diaper." And my wife got really upset because she thought I'm telling her, "Hey, change your diaper," which was not my intention. Been there.
Kind of.
And I was just making a tired observation, but then I thought, like, why are we fighting about this now? And then I reflected and thought, like, we never talked about the roles and responsibilities in our household. The next morning, we sat down at the breakfast table and we just like wrote down, what am I responsible for? What is she responsible for? And, kind of shift things around, just like talked about this. And this clarity removed 80% of the friction we had in our relationship. And I thought, if this works so well, maybe we take other elements of business and apply it to our personal lives, like defining our core values, our mission and vision, and using all these tools, like having a task list that we use together. And this worked so well for us that I want to share this with others. And first was a course on how to apply this to your family life, but then it morphed into a course for peak performance in our teams, in the teams of my company, to help people to, I know you don't like this, to be on their A game. Just like help people to be the best version of themselves and kind of find focus by defining, having a North Star that includes your core values and your mission and vision in the three most important areas of life. Yourself, your body, mind, body, spirit, your relationships, family and relationships, and then you as the professional, and having this as your filter for decision making, and so you don't give into FOMO, because there's fear of missing out. There's so much shiny object syndrome, helping myself to focus more. And I think this kind of morphed into what I'm doing today, aside from, I was always an org dev geek, self-taught org dev geek, kind of implementing this in my businesses. How can I create a culture where the human dynamics are great, where people enjoy what they're doing, they have good relationships, they think what we're doing is cool, and, are excited about doing what we're doing as a company. And yeah, I guess like this all combined is now Love Not Fear.
Super cool. And I think it's so interesting, obviously, that, you take your learnings from the business and apply it to like your organization, and also like to personal development and the individual. Obviously, like an organization, because usually I see it more the other way around, right? Like not necessarily from a family context, but what we do as individuals in personal development, in teams, like sports teams and such, and then we want to bring it into business, and not the other way around. So that is very interesting. And it feels like you're like training a muscle, right? Like, how long did it take that you went from, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna make it on stage, or I really don't want to talk to people and strangers, I get out of my way, to I'm actually gonna speak on stage, or feel comfortable with it? Or do you feel comfortable with it nowadays?
It depends on generally, yes. It kind of depends on my daily form. But generally, yes. If I see, or I realign with my mission, and kind of, if sometimes it doesn't feel good, or like recording a video for social media, it doesn't feel good. But then if I, think like, I always listen to my gut feeling. And if something doesn't feel good, I take a step back and reflect, why is this not feeling good right now? Is it just a little bit outside of my comfort zone? Or is it, is it against my values, or is it not the right thing? And then if it's only comfort zone related, I can easily motivate myself by, putting front of mind, like what I'm doing here is for this purpose, and then it becomes very easy, to overcome that old introvert behavior.
Yeah. So this podcast is obviously about what can we do that we practically, make a shift, or we make changes. We actually create the future we want to live in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how does love, not fear, actually, or your attitude to life and what you're doing, flows into that, you think?
I mean, lead by example, of course, and which is, by the way, so let me take one step back. With Love and Fear, we do these cohorts where we bring a few people together. My favorite number is 6 people, and a facilitator, and we go through this program, helping them to define their vision, mission, values, goals, habits, mindset shifts, etc. And because it's the power of peer accountability or positive peer pressure, and it really helps me to, having this accountability, it's easier to live up to or be the person that I want to be. And yeah, I guess how it manifests is that I'm pushing these cohorts and training people to being able to spread it further. Initially, we did this inside of my companies only, and then entrepreneur friends of mine, heard about this, like, hey, can I join, or can I send somebody for my team? And that's kind of how this has been spreading.
And I think there's a really important component in that. Like, obviously, we've known each other for some time now, and everybody I met who met you is like always saying, oh my gosh, David is so authentic in what he's doing, and I think that is probably one of the magic ingredients, like how we're building a future, or also like businesses and a society that we want to be part of, right? Because it's like a different level of connection that we are building. It's a different level of collaboration and co-creation, and the impact we can have, and at the end, like also the change we want to make, right? So when you talk about mission, vision, core values, it's like all these like very like deep-rooted character traits that are defining our identity, and that's like who we are and how we're showing up in the world. But it feels like we're not necessarily like meeting a lot of people who are actually showing up like that, especially in the business context, right? And then you come in and say, yeah, duh, because they're acting out of fear. But why? Or how do you think? Is it just like, do we really train? We just need to train that muscle, and we, as you say, like need to lead by example. As more people are like showing up in authentic, with an authentic being, authentic behavior, that then we can actually like create a shift.
Yeah, I think it all comes from the mask that we're wearing. And the mask, we wear this mask for multiple reasons. For like, hey, if I'm really showing up as myself, will they not like me, or will I get fired, or am I too much? Or I also think like as introverts are drained because they uphold this mask or change their behavior to be somebody that they're not. I think this is why it becomes so draining being with other people. But in general, I think we're taught that in society or in schools that you have to stick to this norm and behave appropriately, or you stick out, kind of like tribal, going back to our tribal days. If you stick out and you get kicked out of the tribe, then you starve and die because you need the tribe to survive. I think this is where it's coming from. But thank you for the authenticity. I think it's for this comment. My life became so much easier once I just like took off the mask and started being like real in who I am. And my theory with this is, if I'm vulnerable and open and really myself, then I drag people in really fast, because they, people are longing for this, for realness and vulnerable stories. I think this like connects you on a deep level. But on the other side, I also think like if I'm opening up and being vulnerable, and either you click with me, or people think like, oh my God, that guy's freaking crazy, I want nothing to do with him, which is also totally cool. because then, we're not from the same, whatever, tribe, let's say. And, we find out very early. And, for example, in my companies, I like to have core values that are, let's say, polarizing. At Max CDN, which was a very technical company, our number one core value was build cool shit, because we want engineering nerds who are excited about building cool shit. And we do not want to repel, so we want to attract those, and we want to repel people who want to come with to work with a suit and tie on and play the corporate game, because they would be upset that a company uses the word shit in their core values. And we really front and center, like even on the job posting and in the hiring process, we really make sure people understand our mission, vision, and values. Even on the last page of our contracts, people initial next to the core values, and it's like, sign this, and I'm going to live up to those, or I know I don't have a place here, type thing. So yeah, I guess that's no masks off.
And I find this fascinating, as you know, right? Because core values are so subjective. Like, we all have a different kind of interpretation of what cool shit is. And I would say, like, there's also people that are showing up in a tie and they feel completely authentic in that, because that's just how they roll. And so how do you do that in practice? Like, is it just like conversations that you are having and you're like connecting around these, and then people can decide, well, do I click with that? Do I have like a similar view to what you have on it? Or does that actually, like, it doesn't actually matter, because it's good that we have different views, different perspectives on it. And that's how we are creating inclusivity, or however you want to call it.
Like, you can wear a tie and, just like use this example of like somebody who's like stuck up and gets offended if people use words like shit, for example, because they would not have lasted in our culture back then, because it was like very loving but rough, if
Jesus, what happened there?
we had like what's it called? A anti-harassment training in LA or in California. If you have over 50 employees, you have to have this mandated training on like what classifies as harassment. And our team laughed the entire presentation of this woman, because like, we should not be able to exist. We should have been sued 1 million times.
Oh my God.
Because but it was all coming from a place of love. There was like no mean, not mean spirited, so but yeah. And this was also before everybody went overboard with this. So but anyhow.
different conversation.
But like, also like, it's again, like being authentic and real. Like, this is
yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. Like, there's obviously like there's different kind of context if you have like a certain degree of connection, right? Like, things are just landing differently. I understand that. So it's hard like to like put that into like a formal kind of contract, because it's like a psychological contract you have with each other, right? Which is very unique. Yeah.
And it's I think it's about psychological safety, like, even if like, as long as people feel safe and it's okay and kind of agreed upon, then it's totally fine. I think it even strengthened the safety and the feel good that we had. But anyhow, different topic. But just like be real, masks off, and life gets much better.
So I mean, like, you have a ton of entrepreneurial experience, or I mean, like, that's your life, right? Since you're a teenager, practically, right? So and I believe like entrepreneurs have a very different mindset to versus some other people like entering like the business world in a different kind of context, right? You have had your bachelor, master's, like what I did, and then I entered the business world, but I was always like rebelling the system to a certain extent, because I just felt like it was too rigid and I had to break out. But there's different kind of types, and I feel like what you're doing, and how I also met you, is like there is a very high speed in everything what you're creating, and how you view the world is like very pragmatic. Like, it's like okay, let's go, let's try it. We're not overthinking, but it's like a trial and error. And like this, we're actually adapting very, very quickly to whatever is happening in the world, right? Because as we said in the beginning, like changes are happening at a rocket speed, and it's like the world starts spinning faster every single day. You know, like we have the development of AI, we have like everything is just like going very, very fast. So I'm wondering, like, how do you roll? and how do
Fast.
you, yeah,
I think
exactly. Like,
it's with not living in a state of fear. I'm totally okay to F up. Because I'll learn from it. Fail stands for first attempt in learning. And if somebody's like wearing the mask and can't look bad in front of others and is scared they get fired, then you will not push it. I think Mark, oh, that's not called Mark Zuckerberg. Move fast, break things. But it's a quote by him. He told his engineers like
yeah.
move fast and break things. Like, and if you, I think speed is like in the entrepreneurial world, it's super important to just like move faster than the other players in the field. But yeah, I think this is what it is. If you have a culture where people are okay with messing up and also sharing this, then it's fine. Like versus like if people put mess ups under the rug and not share this, I think this is absolutely horrible and destroys the company. We have an error log inside of my companies. And the idea with the error log is whenever you mess up, whenever an issue happens, customer complaint or project not delivered or like servers down or whatever it is, you add it to the error log and you describe like what happened when it happened, who was involved, and most importantly, is it fixed or not? But then most importantly, what do we do to make sure this never happens again? And then and then it's shared with the management team, or everybody has access to it, and it's shared in the management team. And then we just like talk about it and figure out how can we make sure, so we like a self-healing machine. We move fast, we mess up, but then we fix the bugs, and then it's no issue. At Maxian, I went so far, we even had a page called maxian.com/transparency. We had our network speed, all of our NPS feedbacks that we got from people, how they rated us, and with the text, So it was like absolutely, we only took out if somebody was named or the company, whatever. So it was okay from a privacy perspective. This was public on the website, So every time we had a bad review, like the entire company was up in arms to like really fix this. And our NPS score was so good that people thought we fake it, because we're just so obsessed with it. But like, kind of create this dynamic also with, the sales guy going to the engineer saying like, hey guys, on the transparency page, our performance in Asia is like really horrible right now. And I have the sales call, this can't be, like, how can we, so it's like not only coming from top down, like things have to be good. It's like everybody was involved to make sure, because of like a combined mission to make us successful as a group. And it's not just command control from above.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like I'm coming out of also like the org designs of management kind of space, right? And it feels like we're like looking at organizations and they have like, pretty rich structures sometimes, and then we're trying to make them more agile, adaptive, resilient. And sometimes it feels like it's like over engineering it, right? And what we do with that oftentimes is like taking the natural component out. So you're like putting structure in place. You're like, everything has like, it has like its principles, its rules and everything. And have you thought about everything? And then it needs to be implemented. So it goes in phases, and it's like
you can't move fast anymore, and you like death by committee, and I think if you have to decide,
but you do it to move fast. At the end of the day, you know what I mean? It's like a paradox in itself. And at the end of the day, what you're telling me is it's mindset, right? It's mindset. And with that comes like a certain kind of a skill set. And I'm wondering if we look at these big organizations that are having a huge impact, positive or negative, and if we want to change them, I feel like we need more entrepreneurship energy in that. So hence entrepreneurship. And
entrepreneurs.
yeah, and how would you approach that? Like, what do you think is the most important point if you would work with these kind of organizations to, become faster, to become more impactful, and to become like engines of change and impact?
Yeah, I think this kind of goes back to the self-leadership program that we have in Love and Fear, to help people to really be on their A game, to be the best version,
Yeah, keep
to be the
triggering
best,
me.
to be the best version of themselves, and shift that mindset to that people really own the area that they have, or that they take care of, and that they're aligned with the purpose, that they're excited about what they're building there. And I think this is how historically we've always created this environment of moving fast and changing and building something cool. Random tangent in terms of success and mindset. I just read a study by, what was his name? Let me find it real quick. This gentleman followed 1,500 graduates who are about to enter the workforce, and was Dr. Robert Kriegel, a psychologist and peak performance expert. And he followed these 1,500 graduates from 1962 to 1982. And these people identified as success-oriented. They want to, crush it. And statistically, they should have had 1 millionaire in that group, 0
Right.
or 1 millionaire. But this group had 101 millionaires, which is kind of crazy. And which kind of shows that the mindset is really important. If you have the mindset of being excited about what you're doing and pushing. But mindset, I think also accountability is really powerful, because every 6 months somebody cared and followed up with them and asked them how they're doing. But the really crazy thing is that they put them into two groups. Group A was people who are picking whatever job that just paying the most money. And group B said money's not so important for me. I just want to do something I'm excited about. So, kind of finding their purpose and working on the purpose thing. So of these 101 millionaires, of these 1,500 people, how many do you think were in group A, money, versus group B, purpose?
Well, I mean, you're putting it out there, probably purpose was was more people, but
also
I don't know, because I feel
1 millionaire in group A that were money focused, and 100 millionaires in group B that were purpose focused.
Jesus Christ.
And to make it even crazier, in group A, the money focused had 1,325 people were in group A that were money focused, and only 250 were in group B were purpose focused. So I think it's really crazy how much faster we move if we are excited about the thing that we're doing. And this is why I'm so obsessed with finding people who are aligned with our company's mission and vision and aligned with our values. So let's get together and have fun and play and build something cool. Seriously, because otherwise life's way too short to grind on something that you're not excited about. And so I guess this is kind of really the study. I was so happy when I found this, because this really proves the point that I'm making for such a long time. So yeah.
Well, it makes completely sense, right? It's the intrinsic motivation is not easy to beat. It's just and if it brings for me, for example, when we talk about purpose, when we talk about love, also in particular, for me, it's the state of being, right? You're acting out of clarity, intention, direction, and you have this, calmness, which just helps you to navigate through life in an intentional way. And I think that is creating real impact. That is creating real connection. That is creating the real good stuff we want to put out there, right? So I resonate a lot, obviously, with what you're doing. And I experience myself a lot with the topic of purpose, mission, vision. to an extent where it also showed like the backside of it, I guess. But I have, I mean, like I also played a little bit with the tools you have out there, and the very interesting part I have to say about Love Not Fear is obviously like you have the overlap of like, you know, creating cultures out of love and really going into the personal development topic, but you are actually coming out of technology, right? You're coming out of like, you know, you're like kind of like a nerd, right?
See the glasses?
Yeah, right. And that is, I think, like one of the burning topics nowadays, right? How are we bringing technology together with the human aspect? And now we're like in these movements of creating like human-centered organizations or human-centered approaches here and there. We have rising depression rates. We have rising burnout rates. We have companies that, like a lot of social enterprises, they are dying because they are not making it, right? So how do you bring technology and this human social aspect together that it's just making sense and is sustainable?
So just like from the learnings that we had with the course, initially the course was a DIY course. You just buy and then do it on your own time. And
so the course is online, right?
Yeah, the course
an
initially
course.
an online course where there's a bunch of videos and worksheets and stuff like this, and you just like do this by yourself. But I only had a 7% completion rate, and this was really bugging me because, you know, people buy it and then they don't, you know, I get the money, but people don't really have to see the change that they hoped they'll have. And I thought my content must be horrible because people buy it in the computer. But it's actually a decent completion rate on Udemy. It's under 1% of courses that people buy. They just like don't complete them.
Jesus, okay.
So I thought, like, what can I do to really get this content into people's heads and hearts? And so we start doing cohorts where we get a group of people together, and, you know, they do a little bit of homework, watch some videos, do some exercise, and then they meet and go at this in a 1 hour meeting per week. And this worked really well. We had a 93% completion rate when we did it that way. But I couldn't find the software that was facilitating this properly. And so we built one. And the next step of iteration was when AI entered the game. Before defining your core values was like pretty hard, you know, like with flashcards or kind of like reading through values and like getting ideas on how you can get there. But now with ChatGPT and AI, it became very simple. You can do this like in 5 minutes, and you have very decent core values. And like even people have had their core values for many years.
Wait, what? In 5 minutes, you can discover your core values? You're kidding?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And even lots of teaching how to define core values that have been living with their values for many years, and you know, have refined them over time. When they use our AI, they kind of get the same or better results than they had before. And so yeah, it's been really mind-blowing. And so we build a tool that accompanies our program. We can define your vision, mission, values, and goals and habits and all these things to help you to figure out your belief system, and then help you to stick to the behavior that leads to set your goals, and then dial in your habits and your planning to be the best person or be the version of you that you want to be, basically.
Wow. It's quite impressive when I think about, like, I went through so many like trainings and coaching sessions that some of them were good, some of them were maybe not that good, you know, and yeah, so that's quite, I would say, like also a really good example of how to use AI in a supportive manner of like the human-centered approaches, right? And super interesting also about the course, because you brought back the human element that actually people are connecting, and that was also supported by technology, right? So yeah, it's Very cool. Can our audience maybe also try this? Can I
Yeah,
try
sure.
this?
Yeah, sure. Happy to give you a link for the show notes where you can just sign up for free and define your core values and vision and mission.
That would
Sure.
be
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
I'm very curious, like, to just find out. Right. You have dogs?
10 dogs, yes. Sorry.
10 dogs.
10 dogs, yes. And horses
Wow.
and donkeys and chicken and ducks. And a little retreat center here, yes.
Oh, very nice.
Live the farm life, even though it's just a petting zoo. I had to deal with my wife that I don't have to do any of the physical labor. But yes, we live in nature.
Very nice. And that in Turkey, I love it. I have I'm still wondering about, like, how do you see business in the future? How do we do business in the future?
That's a good question. I mean, like, of course, like, everything's moving faster and AI is really important, and I think low-level jobs will fall away, and people will like be really empowered to do way more with the new tools that are out there. It's kind of like before we did everything with a normal screwdriver, and now we have a power drill. You still have to be able, let's say you're a carpenter, you have like carpenter without power tools and carpenter with power tools. You still have to be able to build something cool. It doesn't help you if you have a chainsaw and I give you a piece of wood, it will not turn into a sideboard. You have to still know what you're doing. But yeah, I think a lot of the unskilled labor will fall away, and we have to kind of like help people to elevate. But yeah, I think things will just like move much faster. And in terms of organization, I think it's absolutely crucial to actually, talk about org dev. I'm not sure if self-management is the right way, like a teal organization, reinventing organizations, even though I think it's super cool. And I think it works great in small teams, but in larger teams, I think like a hybrid version is probably the way to go. But yeah, I think this is, if you want to really empower people, and you title this episode of like being heart-centered, if the human-centric, if the human should be at the center of work and the team, even though if you work with AI, etc., I think it still should revolve around creating an amazing environment for people, that they have fun and work on something cool. Otherwise, you will be left behind. Conscious capitalism, kind of in this book, Conscious Capitalism, they make the point that conscious businesses who do good by all the stakeholders, not just the shareholders,
Yes.
Are doing much better financially than the ones who are just looking to increase shareholders' value in the long run. Yeah. Loaded question, hope like I get some.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think like we cannot answer all these questions, but what I've also read recently is actually that like jobs as I don't know, the like the handyman jobs, for example, like, or like electricians and all these kind of jobs, they are going to stay, and actually like the jobs of researchers or academics and that they will be substituted or more substituted by AI. And I was like, oh, that's a really interesting thought, because I hadn't thought that way, but then obviously that makes sense, right? It's like people making things and people actually doing stuff, and you have like also these like really like person to person interactions, right? You let somebody into your home, and so it's very fascinating to see how it's going to play out. And I also think it leaves a lot of room for creation and still interpretation as well. But if we are able to put conscious leadership at the center of it, and combining that in a smart way, it can be a really bright future, actually, I guess.
Yeah, I think in the process, going to be painful for a few people, but at the end of the day, I think it's you can't stop innovation if you yeah, just gotta roll with the punches. And at the end of the day, life now is much better than, even Rockefeller. Pretty much 99% of all people, at least in the West, live a much more luxurious life than Rockefeller lived during his time, because like life gets much easier and more creature comfort. So I'm very positive that good things will happen.
Yes. So share with us like one of the greatest stories that whatever you call it, movement or organization, or just like the message of love, not fear, brought.
There's lots of interesting things that happened to me. Actually, my brother always hands out these stickers. Not my brother, but my brother is like really pushing it. The love not fear stickers. And it's quite fascinating how easy this message resonates with people. They immediately, even if they don't see it on my phone, they put it on their phone or they wear it. We have a few people with love not fear tattoos even. There's this coffee shop he used to work from. And this woman comes to him and says like, hey, do you remember me? He's like, I'm not sure. And she said like, look, she showed her phone. Said like, hey, you gave me the sticker 7 months ago. And like, oh yeah, okay, I remember you. And she said, when you gave me that sticker, I was sitting here and I found out that I'm pregnant and I was contemplating to have an abortion. And she was already like set on the idea of like getting an abortion. And then he talked to her about that every decision in life you make from a place of love or fear. And she decided to keep the baby.
Wow.
So the movement saved one life already.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite powerful, hey? Wow. All right. Anything like final words you would like to share with our audience?
No, just act out of love, not fear. Check out the AI. I think it's going to help you to understand yourself. I think it always breaks down to beliefs and behavior. Understand your beliefs, figure out what you really want, not what society tells you or your parents told you or what their wishes were. Figure out what you really want and then, go for it. Because, as I quoted the study, life gets way more fun when you find your purpose and go for it. Versus being stuck in the hamster wheel. So leave the hamster wheel, people. Life is everything you want is on the other side of fear, and life gets much better when you act out of love.
Thank you so much for that gift to our audience, David. And thank you for your presence and your wisdom and sharing your experiences. And with that, one shift at a time. Let's keep shifting. And I see you soon.
Thank you for having me. It was fun. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
That's it for today on How It Shifts. Shout out to our awesome crew at Chilo Studio, Rebecca, Andrea, Tine, and Carlos. And to all the creators out there, keep building, keep experimenting, and keep shifting. This episode was sponsored by Xipe Group and Love Not Fear.